Alright, so with this we come to the very last session of NILF 2013. With the kind of personality that we're going to have on this stage for this session, I'm sure it's going to be a great knock. You can call our next speaker by many names. The Wall, Mr. Dependable, Mr. Reliable, Mr. Consistent, and so on. And you can add multiple adjectives to his name. Top order batsman, right hand bat, right arm off break, and many more. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together while I call on stage Padma Bhushan cricketer Rahul Dravid. Can we have the AV please? Welcome, Rahul. May I request Mr. N. Chandra, CEO TCS, to kindly host the session and join Rahul on the stage. This is mine? Okay. Okay. Mr. Chandra, stage all yours.
I said it's really a difficult seat to fill, so I wanted him to shift his seat. Rahul, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show here as the last session of the NASSCOM Leadership Conference, NALF 2013.
Thanks, Chandra. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Actually, I was there the first time you made a debut in England in Lords and scored those wonderful 95 runs. So I never realized I'll have the opportunity to host you after about 17 years or so. So it's such a honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rahul, there are 1 billion cricket fans in our country, if not cricketers. And I am one of those fans, and especially a Rahul Dravid fan. I have watched your career. I have watched many of your games, not only while you were playing, and many times have watched the videos. But the most interesting thing that strikes me about you is the fact that you kind of have concentrated on being very, very relevant. I don't know of any other cricketer who has done anything that is needed. You have opened innings, you have been one down, you go down the order, you have kept wickets. Whether you liked it or not, if the team needed it, you have kept wickets. And if you had to bowl, I think you also got a few wickets. I think Syed Anwar, you got him out. What is it about you that you kind of kept doing all the things, all the different things?
First thing, I must say, Chandra, thanks for the kind words, and I must say you must be pretty good at multitasking, because if you've seen all those videos, seen all those matches, and still managed to run TCS, I think you must be doing getting up very early or something. But no, I think, Chandra, to answer your question, I always enjoyed being part of team sport. I think I think growing up, one of the great driving forces for me as a young boy, even in school, I look back on playing, whether it was a hockey team or the football team, and obviously the cricket team as well, was just being part of a team, and being able to connect with a lot of my team members, the camaraderie, the team spirit that comes with being part of a sports team. is something that I truly enjoyed and I really wanted to be a part of. And I think sort of the progression of that really, when I started playing for India, for me, from my point of view, was how was it possible for me to actually make the team that I was playing for a lot better? What was it that I would be able to do to actually, improve the performances of my team? Could I go outside my comfort zone? Could I do something? Everyone expected me to be a batsman. That's what I was expected to do. I was expected to score a lot of runs. But could I sort of be able to do a little bit more? Whether it was wicket keep at times, whether it was catch well at slips, whether it was, just work a little bit harder on being able to bat in different positions. To make myself, use the word relevant, but to make myself, I guess, more useful to the team. And how could I adapt to actually help the team keep improving or, make the team a better team. And I think that's something that I've genuinely enjoyed doing. I've enjoyed being part of that whole process of seeing the success of a team, of seeing some of the things that you've done, even in a small way, actually contribute to the whole and to a victory or to India winning a tournament or winning a test match. And, I think that sort of when you sit back, made me feel, very proud. So I worked on it. I think, I worked on a few of these skills which were a little bit outside my comfort zone. I recognized I needed to probably work a little bit harder on some of these things. And I spent time doing that.
See, I think the reason I kind of made that observation is, in business, people tend to grow from one level to the next level, and they're always looking for the next higher position. Sometimes if people move around and then sometimes lead teams, sometimes be part of teams, it can make a huge impact, but it's very hard to do. So I guess you've always tried to be the most valuable player of the team rather than be a captain or a opener. Or I think for you, I think the focus has always been try to be the most valuable player all the time.
Look, I always wanted to be a leader in my own team, and I believe that as individuals, in cricket teams, and I speak from a very much a cricketing experience. I don't have a business or a corporate experience like some of you do. But I've always believed in cricket teams or even in sports teams, everyone can be a leader in his or her own way. You might not have that tag of being a captain or a vice captain, but I think everyone has a responsibility to lead in his own little way. Whether it is even in your interactions with someone who may be slightly more junior to you, or like I said, upskilling yourself or working on certain skills which not necessarily you get the credit for. For example, a good skill is something like fielding. A lot of times, especially in India, I find that sometimes we don't give enough credit to fielding. People actually becoming better fielders or becoming better catchers. And I think that's I think you see everyone say, okay, he scored a great 100, or you get the headlines for a 100 or a 5-wicket haul. And the temptation is to then work towards those things, and you have to spend a lot of your time working towards those things. But there are the little things like the 1%ers, the things about improving your fielding, so you can take that one brilliant catch. You might spend 5 days on a cricket field and take one good catch, and you spend hours and hours of your time actually practicing for that one catch, and that can make a whole difference in a game and sometimes a series. And so I think these things are really important, of recognizing the roles that you can play in the team, and I guess, there's not, every time there's not someone watching you for these things. People select you on the basis of your scoring runs and you're taking wickets. If you score 100 and drop 2 catches, it's very unlikely you're going to get dropped. But, if you can score the 100 and take those 2 catches, I think you add to the team, which I think is really important, in a sporting environment or in any team, I think.
I think this, the other thing, Rahul, is people know you as a gentleman cricketer, and kind of they associate you as somebody who is very gentle, soft, and they don't associate you as somebody who is aggressive. But look at your statistics. I don't know how many of you know, Rahul Dravid has faced the maximum number of balls in Test cricket, 31,258. I think aggression is not about just dancing down the wicket and then hitting 4 sixes. It's about the tenacity, the staying power, wear the other guy out. I don't know what is it. How do you do this? What is the plan? What is aggression in your mind? How do you Define aggression.
At the rate I batted, Chandra, I probably needed to play a lot of balls to sort of score as many runs as I wanted to. So I guess I had no choice. But no, I think in a sense, aggression for me, I had to be myself. I mean, if you look at it, I have never, in a sense, I've never been the most, even growing up, the most extroverted sort of person. I'm not, if you can call it the life of a party. You won't see me at 12 o'clock in the night, dancing on the dance floor, swinging wildly. But I've always believed that aggression is a very internal thing. I think it's not. I mean, people are aggressive in different ways, and just because someone is outwardly aggressive doesn't necessarily mean he's more aggressive than someone who doesn't actually show it. I think some of the toughest competitors I have played against, and whether it was a Glenn McGrath or even a Muthiah Muralitharan or people that I played with, Sachin, people like that who actually never said much to you, and were never in your face. But you knew that they were extremely aggressive. You knew that at any stage in the game they were not going to back down. They were always going to be competing. They were always going to be at you. And I think those were the kind of players I think who were my role models, or people I looked up to. I found for me that if I tried to be aggressive outwardly, and I did try that, at times I tried to be someone I was not. And it actually was counterproductive to me. It didn't, I couldn't, I never succeeded doing that. And I sort of later on realized that it sort of works best for me to be who I am and to accept who I am and the fact that I'm never going to be this, person who's going to go out there and show a lot of emotion. But deep down within, I knew that I could be tough and I could be hard as anyone and want to win as desperately as anyone. And I think in time, my teammates and opponents and people, come to recognize that. I think in the end, it depends on what you do. I think you're judged by the results you produce, not necessarily the way you behave or the way you carry yourself. And like I said, I found the people who were the most quietest people, or the people who were very confident in themselves and in their games, were the toughest people that I competed against, not necessarily the people who always had something to say to you, and sometimes, they blew out of puff very quickly.
See, that actually takes me to the other point about you, which is this whole tenacity. I think you played so many innings where you have earned this name, the Wall. But the match that comes to my mind is the game you played against Pakistan in Rawalpindi. I know you played 7 sessions or 8 sessions and scored some 270 odd runs, and eventually you won the match. And how do you concentrate on such a long innings?
For me, concentration was actually, you never planned to concentrate for such long periods of time. So when you're concentrating and when I was focusing, for me it was being able to focus at one ball at a time. So you bring the whole thing down to actually being able to be able to concentrate at that moment, at that particular ball that you are going to face. I mean, you can't really control the future, and you have no control about what's happened in the past. So my whole focus and I think a lot of time I spent in learning about how to be able to stay in that bubble or that cocoon for that one particular ball, and then to be able to repeat that again and again and again and again for hopefully a long period of time that allowed me to score a lot of runs. And I think that was the key, and that obviously came through practice and years of doing it in the nets, and just trying to find a routine. And in time, I think I had almost a specific routine that allowed me to, between each and every ball, that got me in what I felt was the best frame of mind to play that one particular ball. So I wasn't thinking too far ahead, just trying to focus on one ball at a time and take it, one step at a time, rather than, thinking about where's 100 or... And I'll be honest, Chandra, it didn't always work. I mean, it sounds very good on theory. I think one of the toughest things to do is to be able to actually stay in the present. I mean, the mind moves us all over the thing. You start thinking about run rates, you start thinking about what will the selectors do, what does the team need, what happened in the last ball, when is the new ball due. I mean, your mind is going all over the place when you're batting, and that ability to be able to just sort of calm that down and bring that to that focus of just focusing on that one ball, I think is a very important skill that in time, sometimes I did better than others, and sometimes, even towards the end of my career, sometimes your mind would be all over the place. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is I think the whole journey or that whole learning for me was about being able to focus everything to that one particular ball.
So when you do that, when you play such a long innings, suddenly you play an indiscreet shot or flash outside the off stump, then miss it. What do you tell yourself?
Well, I think that's the key. So sort of once, you couldn't control that, so you made the mistake, or you, like you said, you played a bad shot outside the off stump, or you can't control that. You've got to be able to say, okay, look, what was my, what have I learned from that, and how can I move on from that? So, okay, this is it, fine. What's next? That ability to, I think, just forget about what's happened and quickly think about the next thing was really important. I think in cricket, if you want to play long innings and bat for long periods of time, I mean, that's a key. And I think that sometimes comes out even more, I think, in one-day cricket and in 2020 cricket, surprisingly, because you have the variable of run rate and things like that to think about, especially when you're chasing. And people who are good chasers or people who bat well under pressure are actually people who are able to, focus on what's happening at that point of time and not worry about, what's happened before them. And that's a skill. I mean, you learn that through practice. A good way to learn that for me was in the nets. In the nets, typically when we practice, you have 4 or 5 bowlers bowling at you, and you're batting. If you could concentrate with 4 or 5 bowlers coming at you and play it one ball at a time, as we like to call it, you were building on this concentration all the time. And the more you do it, I think the better and better you got at it. And that was always a skill, and that's when I talk to young players today or young cricketers about concentration. I tell them that concentration is something that you can learn as well. It's not. Look, I think you have a certain temperament is God-given. It's genetic. You get a certain temperament, and you can't change that. But there are things in that you can change. Things like concentration. I think you can work on that. You can develop that, and you can become someone who can concentrate for longer periods of time. Better if you keep working on it.
It's more practice.
It is practice. It is a lot of it is practice.
See, you've had some fantastic moments. I mean, some phenomenal successes. I think it's Adelaide, the Australia series in 2003, when you scored something like, you played 4 out of the 5 days and played some wonderful knocks, 233 in the first innings and 72 not out in the second innings, and India won the match. I think it's Saurav who was the captain and who called you the god at the end of the series, and that kind of a fame. How do you cope with that? The pressure, the whole. How do you keep your feet on the ground when I think the entire country is kind of thinking that Rahul Dravid can never go wrong?
I think cricket in some ways brings you down to earth also very quickly. I think over the years. Because it's a funny thing. I mean, I always say that batting, especially, is a profession of failure. I mean, we fail more than we succeed. For example, I mean, we'll probably all agree in this room that Sachin Tendulkar has probably been the greatest batsman of this generation, of my generation. And even if you say he's got 100 hundreds, and if you say 50 is, if you call 50. If you say if I scored a 50, I've succeeded. Let's keep 50 as a benchmark. So he's probably got 100 hundreds, and he must have got, but I'm very bad at stats here, so maybe another 150s, or okay, maybe 150 50. So that's 250 times he's succeeded. And he's played almost 200 tests, over 450 one-days, so just counting all of that, that's nearly, I'd say 600 or 700 innings in international cricket, and he's only succeeded 250 times. So he's failed more than he's succeeded. And we're talking of Sachin Tendulkar, who's probably one of the greatest players of the generation. So all of us are hardwired to learn how to deal with failure. And I think, we deal with failure a lot right from the time you're a young kid. You're failing a lot. You're right from a school game when you get out to 0, 2. So I think, this game has a great ability to as soon as you start thinking that you're ahead of it, and as soon as you start taking yourself for granted, it can bring you down to earth very, very quickly. And I think that's something you learn as a young boy, that never to take this for granted, never to, even if you're on a good run or you're being really successful, never to sort of focus Never to lose focus of, I think, the basics. Or what is it that has got you that success? And never to lose focus of that. To keep doing those things. You might not always succeed, and like I said, you'll probably fail more than you succeed. But the more times that you do your basics right, you go back to the routines, you go back to what it was and the work that you put in to make you successful, the better chance you give yourself of succeeding in cricket. And that's. But you learn how to cope with failure. I think learning how to deal with failure and the emotional energy that's lost with failure is very important in our sport. Very important. I mean, you fail a lot. You've got to be able to have that ability to cope with it and be able to bounce back and look ahead to the next success. And the flip side is not getting carried away with that success and having that balance of mind. I think the best players that I've played with have actually not been driven so much by either the money or the success. They've been driven by their craft. They've been driven by their skill. They've been driven by becoming the best cricketers they can want to become. And when I look at the Tendulkars, the Kumbles, and the Lakshmans, the Gangulis, and the people I've played with, and just to mention a few who I think were great cricketers, they've been driven not necessarily by fame and money, but by the craft and the skill and the talent that they had, and maximizing that.
I agree. It's you learn to cope with failures, but I think the point I was making is it's even more difficult to deal with success, which you seem to have done very admirably.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, but I mean, like I said, I guess if you fail a lot, then you learn not to get carried away, I guess.
See, that brings me to the point that you were making about Sachin Tendulkar, who everyone here and everywhere else definitely rates as probably the all-time great. So that also means that many people often say Rahul Dravid is a superlative great batsman cricketer, but he always was overshadowed. You take the debut, you scored 95, it was a wonderful innings, Ganguly scored 100. You remember that 2001 cricket in Calcutta against Australia, that spectacular innings, which I think you scored some 170 or 180, something like that, and Lakshman scored 200 and odd runs, and then from an innings defeat we came back and India pulled off one of those historic wins. And there are many occasions like that, and people often say Rahul Dravid is overshadowed. Did you ever feel that you are not getting the due credit?
Well, no, I honestly never felt that. I have never felt that I've never received my credit. I mean, if you look at, I've been lucky and I've been, I think, blessed by what I've received. I've received a lot of love and affection. I've had the opportunity to play my sport at such a high level for 16 years and 5 years before that for Karnataka in first class cricket. So 21 years at the first class level is a lot more than I ever dreamed of. So I've had a lot to be happy about. I mean, if you're coming sort of second to Sachin Tendulkar, that's not necessarily a very bad thing. It's not that you're coming second to mediocrity, so it's not, or even the 180 you mentioned. I mean, Lakshman's 281 was probably the best innings I have seen from an Indian batsman. So if you're sort of being overshadowed by that, you can deal with it. If you're being overshadowed by a bit of mediocrity, then, that's a bit hard to deal with.
Well, for the gentleman cricketer you are, I think I consider two of those things that you did as captain as extremely bold and very risky. I don't know how you had the courage to take those decisions. The one was a match when Sachin Tendulkar was 194. I think it was against Pakistan in Multan. You wanted to give more time for the bowlers and you went and declared when he was 6 runs away from his double century.
Thanks for reminding me, Chandra. I knew this was going to be a tough interview, but I didn't thought it was going to be that tough.
I mean, if you had lost that match, you would have been crucified.
Yeah, I was crucified a few times in my career, so it doesn't matter really.
The other one I remember is a match, I think it was in Bombay, when Australia had 100 runs lead against India. and Lakshman was out of form, and you sent him in your position, one drop. And again, Lakshman scored some 69 or 70, and then we won the match in a very low scoring match. It was in Bombay. And why would you have done that? Because he was not in form. Was it that you wanted him to get to form? And anyway, the first one first. Did you really think about it? Were you under a lot of pressure? When Sachin was in 194?
Well, I mean, look, I think in most decisions, I mean, as a captain, I guess appearances can be pretty deceptive. I know people all, and like we said earlier, I think I had a certain amount of steel inside of me. Outwardly, I guess, might have portrayed a different image, but I'd like to believe that there was a certain amount of steel inside of me, whether it was an individual batsman or in whatever decisions I took. I think my philosophy generally was about backing myself and making the decisions. I think, if I believed that something was in the interest of the team, and sure, people could disagree what was actually in the interest of the team. There are two people, you have two team members or you have many members in a team, and as a leader you take a decision. Some might feel that, look, that wasn't that was the right one. Some might feel that wasn't. That's I think that's part and parcel, I think, of being a leader. And you had to take decisions. I mean, sometimes, the couple of times that you did mention here, actually things did work out. We went on to win the test match in Pakistan. Lakshman did score 60 on that turning track, and we ended up bowling Australia out for 104, chasing 110. Not all the things that I did or not all the decisions that I took as a captain worked. That's true of, I think, any captain that I've played with or played against. Some things that they did worked, some things that they didn't work out. But as long as you were clear in yourself that you were doing it in the best interest of the team and with the right intentions, I think there was no debate in it. In the end of the day, you did what you felt was your gut and what you felt was in the best interest of the team. Sometimes they worked out, sometimes they didn't.
Fantastic, Rahul. Congrats on exhibiting that exemplary leadership there. So then let me come to 2007. If 2003-04 was probably one of the peak periods in your career, I think you almost could go no wrong, and you played so many tests, and every time you went out and you seemed to score. I think 2007, after the World Cup, I think you had a lean patch. And how did you deal? Again, late 90s, I think 98, 99, again you had a lean patch. How did you deal with it? What would you tell yourself? Because there are always 10 guys waiting if you're not scoring.
Yeah, it was a tough period. I think the period in sort of 2007, 2008 was probably my toughest period in my whole career. And it was a tough one because, like you said, I mean, I'd actually been really successful almost from 2000 to sort of middle of 2006, end of 2006. I had 6 or 7 great years in international cricket where I could almost do no wrong. And then suddenly I was faced with this challenge of 2 extremely tough years. It was tough. It was never easy. I think it was a great learning experience for me as well. Like I said earlier, I mean, sometimes you can be doing everything right and still things don't work out. I think that was something I took away from it, because I always had 4 or 5 boxes that I ticked in terms of my preparation as a player. One of them was my physical fitness. So I would have certain benchmarks as to how fit I wanted to be, and what was my weight, how much I was able to run, what was the basic parameters that I wanted to, and whether I was within the parameters that I felt were comfortable for me. There was a technical side of the game, whether I felt my technique was good, and you would have a lot of discussions with your coaches and fellow teammates as to various issues on your technical things. So that's another box that I always like to tick, whether I was doing all the technical work. The other box that I like to tick was the mental thing, whether I was doing enough of the mental routines that we do as cricketers, all the mental routines that you do as cricketers, whether you were ticking all those boxes. The other thing was the emotional side of the game. I mean, there's so much of emotional energy that's expended in cricket and travel and being away from home. Whether I was being able to get that into balance, whether I was bringing that, I was sort of giving myself enough credits there. So these are all the sort of 4 boxes that I always felt that I needed to tick, and sometimes I tick one box better than the others, and I say, oh look, my fitness has gone down, so that's why, maybe I'm struggling, so let me pick it up, and it was a good sort of benchmark for me. But that was a period in which I actually sort of felt I ticked all the boxes, but somehow I just didn't score runs. And it was a humbling experience. It was really humbling for me, because I felt, look, if I do everything right, I should still succeed. And sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Things just don't work out, and especially in cricket, you can do whatever it is, and it just doesn't work out for you. It's the circumstances, or maybe things you can't control, or there's at a subconscious level you're not the same person. And so I did struggle through those 2 years. For me personally, it was just a question of sticking to these routines, sticking to what I did best, trusting myself through it. Just the gratefulness of having that support from family, friends, people around you who back you. I think that at times like that, you need people actually behind you who actually give you a bit of support, pat you on the back and say, come on Rahul, we back you through this, you'll get yourself through this, because you have a lot of self-doubt. You start doubting yourself. You start thinking, look, there were times I would think, have I forgotten how to bat? Have I lost the ability to, maybe you can forget how to bat. So I thought maybe I've lost how to bat. I've lost this talent that I was given. But I think just having that determination to keep going, to keep fighting, I think enjoying the game, learning, it's hard, as hard as it may sound, learning to even enjoy the failure and seeing what can I learn from this failure, how is it making me a better person, what can I gain from this to be able to capitalize when I find myself in good form later on. And I think that period in a lot of ways helped me a lot as a person, more than anything else. But there was no real clear answer. There's not one thing that I did that got me out of it. By 2009, I started batting better, and I had a couple of pretty good years again in 2009 and 10. There's not one thing that I did, but just that ability to be able to hang in there, I think, and just fight my way through that difficult period with support of other people was, I think, something that was a learning that I took away from those 2 years.
See, the other thing about your statistic, which again is pretty fascinating, is almost every time you scored a century, India did not lose, barring the recent England tour where you kind of scored multiple centuries, but still it was not good enough to save the match. But pretty much before that, every time you scored a century, India never lost. What is it about you clicking at the right time when it is needed?
I think the challenge of scoring runs, it's a nice statistic to have. I actually played only in four of my 36 centuries where test matches that India lost. So that's not a pretty...
It's an amazing statistic.
It's not a bad stat, really. But in fact, G.R. Vishwanath was one of my great heroes, actually had an even better stat. I think he had a stat where he was actually someone who never lost a test match when he scored a century. He scored 16 or 17 of them and actually never lost a test match. But I think that the challenge of scoring runs when conditions were difficult or when I guess your team needed it was a great thrill. Was a great something that challenged me, that drove me a lot. But I guess not losing the test match also is a combination of others performing well around you. Like later on in England, I did score centuries and I did play particularly well, but we still did lose because we couldn't get 2 or 3 other performances in, which is required to at least save a test match. So saving a test match is a bit of teamwork and team spirit. It's a nice number and a nice stat to have, but it was also, I think, a lot of combination of teamwork during the time when I scored runs. But also I think that thing of actually making a difference in scoring runs when the team needed it or at a critical situation was something that I always aspired to do. Challenged me, and that's how I felt people would respect me more or rate those performances better if you actually performed when the chips were down.
Sachin, Rahul, Lakshman, Saurav. A fantastic lineup. These are some of it's a dream combination. And whenever you guys played together, whenever someone is down, the other guys kind of helped us out, you kind of coached each other, or how did it work?
Yeah, I think we were our best coaches in a lot of ways. Because I think four of us, and probably add Sehwag to that list because he sort of came into the team in 2000. I I think a lot of us understood each other's games really well, and some of us had even played with each other as junior cricketers. I mean, I played with Lakshman in under 19 teams. I played with Saurav in India A teams. Sachin obviously was our age, but he was already playing for India. But I think we understood each other's games well. We understood each other's personalities quite well, and because we were together for such a long period of time, I think when someone was down, I think a lot of us knew the right things to say and say, look, what was it that made somebody tick? And we spend a lot of time with someone and play so much with someone. We sometimes don't even need to say a lot, but just a couple of words, just a few. Like for example, for me, batting with Sachin was quite fascinating because we batted a lot, and we, I sort of scored the most amount of my runs with Sachin in a partnership with Sachin. And we knew each other's games so well that we actually never, we came together to talk in the middle. We actually never said much, and we never spoke much. But, just when it was needed, and sometimes we didn't even say anything, we'd walk up to each other and just nod at each other and walk back. But when we needed to say something, and if he felt there was a slight, I was losing concentration, or I needed to pull myself up, or if I felt that, he was getting a bit too anxious, we'd be spot on and we'd just quickly tell the other person. And a lot of times I found, when he did tell me, actually it was very at the right time. So I think the fact that we played together so much, I think really helped a lot of us and helped the team in the long run.
So moving to technology in sports. I think I would say that the sports people and even cricketers use a lot of technology to replay, to learn about the other players, other teams. So much of technology that's used in training, in preparation. But when it comes to really using technology in the real game, whether it is a DRS in cricket or whether it is the FIFA using technology, there's a lot of hesitation. Some people are for it, some people are not for it. And how do you see the future?
Well, I think technology is always constantly improving. Technology is not perfect, but it's constantly improving. So I think, like you said, we already use technology in a lot of things, and definitely to enhance strategical planning, training. Technology is already used in enhancing spectator, sort of viewership, or enhancing the quality of the viewership for the spectator. Technology is already used a lot. So I think it's on its way forward. I mean, we use technology quite a bit in terms of especially things like strategy and planning, and sort of video technology is used a lot in that area of things. So yeah, I can't see it going backwards. I think technology, you have to keep going forward, and as technology gets better and better and better, you'll see more and more of it being used in all aspects of sport. I think sports and I think sport can gain a lot by technology. I think, there's a lot that sometimes I feel that there can be a lot more that sport can tap into technology to sort of make, especially the area of strategy and planning and preparation, a lot better, make it a lot more scientific. We have so many issues with injuries, so many issues with various things that happen in sport, just management of players. I think technology in the future is going to make a difference in a lot of these things.
Well, I think maybe we can take a few questions from the audience before we chat more. Anyone has a question?
My name is Sundar from Absolute Data. But first, Rahul, congratulations on a great career.
Thank you.
Post your retirement, I'm sure a lot of people must have asked you, why did you do it? And don't you feel the itch to get back, especially seeing how we are performing on tests? How do you respond on that?
Look, I had a great run. I had a fantastic run. Like I said, I played 21 years of first-class cricket. And I just felt, and I knew it was time for Indian cricket to move on and the next generation of players to come in and take the team forward. I'd taken it as far as I felt I could, and now I knew that it was a time to move on. Sure, there's a period of transition. Change is never easy. It's never easy to replace experience, and it's not only I have retired, Lakshman's retired. We've sort of Harbhajan and Zahir haven't been very fit, haven't played a lot. So there's a lot of experience that's moved on. So there is a period of transition. There is going to be a time when it's not going to be that easy for India to win. I think we'll still win, and especially in one-day cricket, I think we'll keep winning quite a bit, because I think the one-day teams already a lot quite experienced, even though they're young boys, but they've played a lot of cricket. But the test team is going to take a bit of time to grow and evolve, and we're going to see some ups and downs. But hopefully, if you look at it from a slightly more long-term picture, hopefully the experience that the boys gain, even in defeat. I mean, even if you lose games, it really doesn't matter as long as you're moving forward and the team's becoming a better team in the long run.
Hi Rahul, it's
Hi.
an honor to see you in person and then speak with you. So I've been watching cricket obviously for the best part of my life, or probably all my life. Ever since I got a chance to actually look at a TV. One thing that I've observed is, for the most part, India was very good when it came to sporadic individual performances, and in certain cases, regular great individual performances. Except for a brief, period which is more of an aberration in recent times, we have never really succeeded as a team. And I think in the very recent past, neither are we succeeding individually nor as a team. So I just wanted your comments on India succeeding as a team.
I think it's a good question. It's interesting you say that. I saw this sort of shift in my own career. I started in sort of 96 and finished in 2011. Early on, when we went away on tour, I think the expectations from people and people around us really was that, look, don't go and lose a test match. Don't go and lose a test series. If you draw, it's like a victory. That's what people said. And people would say, oh, if you score 100 and the team loses, okay. Tendulkar scores 100, team loses, okay, no problem. Because expectations were not high. I think that has changed. I think that has definitely changed. You're asking the questions today. I mean, 15 years back, people wouldn't even ask this question. I think people now expect success because they've seen success. They've seen the team succeed over the last decade more consistently than it has before. And so people are expecting a lot more, and why? I think, we are still a long way to go. I think we're never, and I think as long as we don't have a strong bowling attack I think great teams or great eras are built on great bowling attacks. I mean, whether you look at the West Indies of the 80s, 70s and late 70s and right through the 80s, or the Australians of the 2000 or mid 90s to 2000, it was built on great bowling attacks. You have to have 4 or 5 great bowlers to build an era of dominance and control. Otherwise, you're always going to have sporadic success. I mean, South Africa is dominant and controlling today because they have got a great bowling attack. So until you have that, unfortunately, we've never had that out and out great bowling attack. We had that over a short period of time, and that's why we had that success. So it'll take a bit of time. I think it needs a little bit of luck, a little bit of work behind the scenes, but getting that key bowling attack is going to define how Indian cricket goes forward.
Hi Rahul. It's been an honor to see you today. I saw you first 13 years ago. You were the chief guest at the first business that I worked for. It was great seeing you then. It's great seeing you now. I have 2 questions. One, we've always had a dearth for a very strong bowling department in the Indian team. Why is it that we always find more batsmen than we find bowlers? And number 2, we've got enough and more talent within the country, all the ex-players whom we've had, who can be much better coaches versus the coaches that we try to hire externally. Is there a reason for that?
So why are more batsmen? Indians are very smart people. Yeah. Bowling is hard work. So we graduate towards why risk running in 20 yards and get injured and have a nice cushy career as a batsman like me, 16 years of, tapping it around and raising my bat a few times and, fast bowler. Srinath used to tell me that, Srinath used to say, you guys are the bowlers are the labor class of cricket. We are the labor class and you guys are like the officers. So I think, things are improving slowly, but I think it's, we've always been aspirational batsmen. I think, we've had most of our role models, barring, the odd Kapil Dev, Anil Kumble, Srinath, Harbhajan Singh, a lot of our role models are batsmen. We've always had great batsmen. There's a tradition and a history of great batting in India. And it just happens over the years. So I think there's a tendency for young kids to ape and admire what is great, and the more they see of it. So that's something, that thing. And I would love for it to change. I'll be very honest with you. I would love, like I said earlier, I answered the earlier man's question. I think bowling attacks define how great a test team or how great a team you are. And until we can have great bowling attack, we're never going to be a consistently good, strong cricket team. It's just reality. And the other question was about the coaches.
The other was about the coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think coaches today is not really about nationalities, and it's not about thing. It's, I think, the Indian cricket team or the players who play for the team deserve the best. Just like in anything, just like in, I think this is a global, technology is a global world. All of you work with so many different people. Indians are as good as anybody else in the world in any field. But the people who make the decisions have to make the decisions on who they think is best at that point of time for the team. We have gone with foreign coaches over the last 12, 14, 15 years, and it's been successful. It's been a successful period in Indian cricket, barring a few reverses here and there, which do happen. It's been a pretty successful period. So maybe sometime in the future we might see more Indian coaches coming in, and there are a lot of good young Indian coaches now coming in who are going through the ranks and coaching Ranji Trophy teams and doing all the levels of coaching that's required to be actually a really good coach. So I'd love to see, in the future, a lot more Indian coaches coming through.
Thank you.
Hi, Rahul.
Sorry.
Hi, Chirag here. It's a privilege to interact with you. I think it's a great honor. You're my role model. I played a bit for cricket myself during my school. And you were a role model for my mother when she said you need to become like Rahul as a person as well. So I remember...
Mom didn't know me very well then.
No, actually she met you as well. So I used to take on my bat at nights and really practice and keep tapping, as you said. And so I used to get beaten. But anyway, so my really question was about adaptability, right? So you were this guy who came in and bowlers used to get really frustrated, and when will this guy really go out? He doesn't score so much. And I remember one scene very well. I was still growing up, and I think it was Alan Donald who came up to you and bowled you and said sweet nothings to you. And the way you looked at him, you said, wait, just hold on. And you hit a six. And I was like, dude, this guy can hit a six as well. I was stunned. And the next thing was, I think, your score of about about 40 odd balls. It was, I think, a T20 in England. And you were the fastest scorer. And I was stunned. I was like, if he can do this, why doesn't he do it every time? So my question is, firstly, how did you really prepare yourself for an innings or to respond to a delivery? And secondly, did you adapt yourself in changing roles and situations in the team?
I mean, you're not the only one who said, oh dude, he can hit a six. Even I thought the same. Boy, I can hit a six as well. So, you're not the only one. But, no,
well, that was the starting of your career, so.
It's early days. So, yeah. In terms of how you reacted to a situation like that, I always believe that if you got a bowler angry and if he said something to you, you were actually winning the battle. Like I said earlier, I mean, I loved it when I got bowlers angry and irritated them, because then they were not focusing on their skill or what they needed to do. So I actually enjoyed it when bowlers said stuff to me. Like the toughest ones I found to play were people who never said anything to you. Just focused on their bowling, and they went back and you just knew that they were going to give you nothing. But actually bowlers got angry and got tough, sort of said stuff to you. Actually, I always thought of that as a victory. As soon as you get somebody angry, you're actually winning half the battle, as long as he can't punch you. Thankfully, and Alan Donald and me, there would have been no contest at that stage. We got into a fight, but I would have beaten him. But don't print that if there's any. Please, Alan Donald's going to see me during the IPL. He'll actually carry. But the point was that I had to sort of keep my cool and work in my cocoon in my area, rather than focusing on what other people were doing and saying, and I did give it back at times, and like I said, I did give it back a lot of times. The impression or sometimes the image about me is that I never gave it back. I did in my own way without sort of going over the top.
Right. Thanks.
Hi Rahul, Shannon here. Hi. It's really an honor to see you. I'm a huge fan. We have been talking about technology involvement in cricket so far. So one aspect is DRS, which we Indians have been running away and BCCI has not been taking the privilege of that system. On the other hand, rest of the world, rest of the cricketing world at least, is very keen and they have been accepting it throughout. So what do you say in that? What is the reason why we are not taking it in Indian games?
Look, it's not a personal issue. I think everyone's got to be confident with the technology. I mean, I think at this point of time there are some people and countries who are not fully confident with technology. I mean, there are flip sides to the argument. People say, well, cricket's been a game where you accept the umpire's decision. It's a gentleman's game. You're supposed to accept the umpire's decision. And so what if a few things go wrong? That's the charm of the game. That's the beauty of the game. So accept it. That's the side of the argument. If technology is not 100% perfect. So, and it's not. I mean, we've seen even test matches just as recently as South Africa and Pakistan. It's getting better all the time. I mean, it's got its own, it's getting better. So I think, it's no point saying it's, this versus them. I mean, the argument is there are people who are not fully convinced that, this is 100, it's not giving you enough positives to spend that kind of money for decision making. So there are people who feel that in that way, and that you have to accept that. So it's not, and I think as you'll agree, technology is constantly evolving. I believe there will come a time when I think everyone will be comfortable with technology. It might not be today, it might be in a year's time, but maybe in 2-3 years' time ahead. And that's, I guess, a challenge for all of you, I guess, in some ways. All the techie guys to ensure that we have the best technology.
Yeah, Hi, Rahul. Hi, Rahul.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. Just wanted to know a little bit when you took over as the captain of the Indian team from Saurav, and that phase when Chappell was the coach, and there was some obvious tense equations between Chappell and Ganguly, and you were leading the team. So how did you, manage those situations from leadership perspective? We're happy to hear that.
Look, I mean, a lot of things get blown out of proportion also. I think we live in an age, media makes a mountain out of a molehill at times. So I think a lot of the stuff that was read was a little bit over the top. Sure, like in any team, not only in that team, in every team there are issues, there are challenges you deal with, different personalities, different players, different things to deal with, and you have to deal with them. I mean, you have to recognize that the team's got to move forward, different issues come up, and that time was no different. There were issues that came up and we dealt with it at the best we could. Some we did better and then others, some we didn't. I mean, that's the way it is. But I think a lot of it as well was a bit blown out of proportion as well.
Rahul? Rahul?
Sorry.
Yeah, I've got two questions.
Only one question.
I will, okay. Other is a supplementary. Okay. First, thank you very much. You have been Mr. Dependable and a great team man, and you entertained us. First question is, how did you deal with Australian sledging? Number two, can you give us some breaking news? You have never explained why you gave up your captaincy on your own. Thank you.
Firstly, I'll give you two boring answers. So, the first one is I never really got sledged by the Australians a lot. I think, sure there was a lot of gamesmanship at times, but I never felt it over the top personally. I can't speak of other people. I never really felt at any stage that I was ever personally attacked or abused on a cricket field. So, I've been lucky, I guess, in that sense. If, other people claim it's happening, I have no personal experience of it. In terms of the other answer, it's an answer I've given many times before, that I felt it was time to move on and I wasn't enjoying it very much.
Rahul, a quick question. You spoke about the tick boxes that you have actually. So cricket is all about both physical strength and mental strength. Now what would be your weightage and what is your advice for the young cricketers on this?
It's hard to give it a percentage and say cricket is 90% mental or physical. I think cricket's a skill-based game. I think it's quite clear that cricket's, when you compare it to say a sport like hockey, or you compare it to any athletic sport or even tennis, the thing about cricket is it's a skill-based game. The thing in cricket is that as a bowler you have the ball in your hand, you're running and you bowl the ball, or as a batsman the ball comes to you. It's not like say tennis where you have to chase the ball and you have to first reach the ball before you can actually show your skill. Or hockey, I mean, if you're not fit enough to reach the ball, you can't show your skill. But in cricket, that's not the case. So cricket is skewed a little bit in that sense that you don't have to be that physically strong as in some of the other sports. But I think you still have to be very physically fit to be able to sustain that for a long period of time. So different kind of fitness. So I'd say cricket's a really much a skill-based game with a huge mental aspect of it and a very important physical side to it. You know, I mean, look at someone like an Arjuna Ranatunga or a lot of people, you know, have had success as cricketers not being the most athletically, you know, if you look at their body and say, oh, this is not an athlete, but they've had pretty good success in cricket. So I think cricket gives you that margin, gives you that allowance a little bit, but that is shrinking. That is shrinking now with the amount of cricket being played and so much of cricket being played. You have to be able to stay fit to survive throughout the year. So you could get away without being that fit in cricket, but you know, not so much.
Hi, Rahul. I know. I'm sorry. We're totally running out of time.
So one.
And I know this can go on for the rest of the day.
So last question.
I'm really sorry. We're running out of time. We would like to finish it in time. Rahul, it's been such a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Chandra.
It's a remarkable career. Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, Rahul Dravid.
Thank you so much, Rahul. It's been wonderful. It's an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chandra. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Rahul Dravid for you. With this, we come towards the end of this grand event, NILF 2013. Before I hand over the podium to Mr. Chandra, Chairman NASSCOM, I personally would like to thank all of you for being such a great audience. It's been truly a pleasure and an honor to host you today, as well as during the last 2 days. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Chandra.
I just want to thank all of you for being such a wonderful delegates, audience for the last 3 days. It's been a terrific conference. All the sessions were just spectacular. We learned a lot, and there has been a phenomenal participation. But I just want to take a minute to thank the NASSCOM team, which has put together such a wonderful show. This would not have been possible. And while there are many people in NASSCOM who have really worked very hard, almost for 6 months, there is one person, Prerna, I know that she's here. Get her. And she, I would say that single-handedly pretty much has directed the whole event. And it's just remarkable how, though I'm part of the industry and, you know, this year, the year I've been the chairman, so I get to see how these guys put this show together. I think it's just remarkable how this NASSCOM Secretariat does with a very thin staff. It's not that there are too many people behind this whole event, and everybody contributes in the industry, but it's been well orchestrated and a phenomenal job. I thought we should applaud her. Thank you all, and I hope she'll be able to come. Otherwise, I think most of you probably know who she is. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful 2013, and see you next year in NILF 2014. Thank you so much.